the rehearsal is happening. A few people are going there. Some program for Govardhan. So some rehearsal somewhere. I don't know exactly where. So here. Yeah, look, I can play. I can play Mridanga actually. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Gopi Janavalava Girivaradhari Gopi Janavalava Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Brajan Janaranjana Yasodanandana Brajan Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, oh Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, oh Rama. Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad-gita ki jai, Nidai Gaura Bhimanandi, Hari 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 Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Bhagavad-gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada's rendition of this famous Vedic classic, the essence of the Vedas. So, you were not here last week. No, you were here last week, did you? You were not here, right? So we were reading second chapter. We were reading the section where Krishna talks about the soul. I believe, what is this girl? Rebecca, I think it was here. Rebecca or Isabella? Rebecca, right? Rebecca. She was reading from second chapter, and she was reading about the soul. So this is just a description of the different topics that the different sections of the Bhagavad-gita discuss. We can go through them quickly, so we know what is the context. The Bhagavad-gita sometimes is compared to a mountain. So we are climbing the mountain, and all the areas or all the sections make sense and they connect with each other. The first section, it's all about you. We may say, why about me? What do I have to do with the Bhagavad-gita? But it's you as sampling the living entities. You, just like any other living entity, we all go through similar things. We are born, we grow up, what else? We age. What else? Get diseases, and then die. That's the body, right? So we lament. Basically, the situation in this material world, it's lamentation. This is what's happening, and that's the conclusion. I mean, we don't go into all the nitty-gritty, the gory details of our pastimes in this material world. But as you know, we end up lamenting. That's the normal thing. So once we are lamenting, just like Arjuna was lamenting, and the word was expressed in the last verse of chapter 1, text 46. Do you have the Sanskrit there, right? But I can read the English translation and we can try to be Sanskrit experts and discuss a little bit. This is just a review of what we saw last week. Some of you were not here. So Sanjaya said, Sanjaya is narrating the whole Bhagavad-gita to the blind king Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya had obtained some blessing, some power of television. Right? Tele means far, and vision means obviously to see, vision. So he had this power. So the blind king Dhritarashtra asked him, "My dear secretary Sanjaya, can you please tell me what's happening far away, a few kilometers away, and in the battlefield?" Right? That's the first question. The question was, that's the very first verse, famous verse, Dharma chetre kuruchetre samaveta yudsavaha mamakam pandavas chaiva kim akurva tatanjaya. So Dhritarashtra said, that's the first verse, "O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra desiring to fight, what did they do?" That's how the Bhagavad-gita opens up. So at the end of this chapter, because this is just basically an overview of the whole book, Sanjaya said, "Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief." So the first Sanskrit word in the 46th verse, in the last line. Do you have it there? Yeah, the first word. Shoka. Shoka, what's that? Samvigna? Sampada. What is it? Manasa. Manasa refers to mind, right? If you can read word by word, Manasa, his mind overwhelmed. Yeah. So the mind is overwhelmed with lamentation, yeah, because of the conflict that he was in. So the first thing that Krishna explains in the Bhagavad-gita is what's called the Atma Tattva, or the knowledge about the soul, the knowledge about the self, ourselves. And that's why this section, it is sometimes presented as all about us, our lamentation, our identity, our duty, our learning, our result, and our thinking. So the first section of the Gita, the first section of the mountain of the Gita is to understand ourselves, understand our situation. This is our situation. Yeah, we're lamenting, as Srila Prabhupada explains in the early purports, 211. He says, you are talking like a great person, and then you are crying like a fool. You are lamenting like a fool, right? Because at the end of life, generally that's what happens. We lament for ourselves or for others. So the first, as I said, the first lesson that Krishna gives in regards of this knowledge is about the self, Atma Tattva. And then from text 11 till 30, forgot now which one we read, 30, 31, I think, 30. Yeah? The first verse of that section, Krishna says, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So, like nearly 20 verses, Krishna explains what is the reason for him to not lament. Yeah? And he says several times, Tvam na sandarshito, no, what's that? Tvam na suchitum arhasi. You should not lament. He repeats several times, I think 6 or 7 times, the same Sanskrit line. Na tvam suchitum arhasi, na tvam suchitum arhasi. Don't lament, don't lament. So it's just like, you know, whenever you had some problems, even as a little kid, sometimes we fall and then we're crying and then somebody comes and says, don't worry, it's going to be okay. Yeah, don't lament. So Krishna is consoling Arjuna, is telling him exactly that. Don't lament. There's no need to lament. There's no birth and death for the soul. We appear to have birth and death, but actually this is just the external covering of the soul. So there's no need to lament. The soul has nothing to do with this body. So that's the first instruction. It's very emphatic because it's verse after verse, shloka after shloka. Krishna is hammering the same point. You are not the body. You are rather the eternal spirit soul. So it is explained that in the Bhagavad-gita we have two summaries, right? And the first summary is in chapter 2 and is the second longest. How many verses? 72. And chapter 18, which is the longest verse, chapter, how many verses? The longest, so 72 is the second longest. And chapter 18, 78. It's easy. 2, 72, 8, 78. You know? So 78 verses. And why they are so long? Because they include aspects of different sections of the Gita put all together. So if you analyze the whole chapter, you will see that there are clearly from this verse to this verse, Atma-tattva. Or Sankhya, it's called sometimes Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya means analytical study. So you analyze. You're not the body, you are the soul. You're not related really to the experiences of happiness and distress. They are compared to day and night. Sometimes they are compared to winter and summer. Yeah, they come and go. Now the weather, it's so nicely changing finally, right? And it's getting a bit hot and all that. Some people may not like it. I love hot weather, tropical. Sorry. And then we start thinking, oh, so nice. And you put your winter clothes away and whatever else you use to protect yourself from cold. But then after a few months, then again the cold comes, and then again, it goes on like that, So we forget. That's the psychological phenomenon. We forget that it's going to go. That's it. I'm happy now. I'm healthy now. I'm alive now. But at some point, we will go through that change, that transition. And one of the, for not saying the essential verses, the essential verse of all these verses in chapter 2, how many verses? How many verses? 72? 72, yeah? Yes or yes? Yes, okay, 72. Of all the chapter 2 verses, one trick that we use in the Bhakti Shastri course that we're running is that how many verses the Bhagavad-gita has? Don't say it. 700. Okay, 700. Generally, if I said, read all the verses or what to speak, remember all the verses, it's impossible, right? It's like, I'm too busy, I'm not studious, I'm not philosophical, blah, 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 all those excuses. But if we say, why don't you learn one verse per chapter? That you can do, right? One verse per chapter, it's easy. So what we have done in this list is that we have selected the essential verses, right? And then we connect each of these verses. Well, that's the sequence. Tuk, 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 tuk. And then we go on like that. So it's only 18 verses, right? We have an exception in chapter 10, which gives 4 verses. So it's 3 extra. So it's 21 verses. So in 21 verses, even if you don't know the Sanskrit, even if you don't know the English exactly or verbatim, you have a clear sense of what's Krishna teaching to Arjuna and to us throughout the Gita, from beginning to end. Yeah, it's quite a cheat, it's kind of way of doing it, but it's easy. So then we can remember it, and from that we can expand. Yeah, that's what we do. So Srila Prabhupada said in a famous video, I think it was 74 or 75. It was on Los Angeles, famous video. there. I don't know if millions, but surely hundreds of thousands of views. There's a famous lecture that he gave in Los Angeles. And all at that moment was the height of the Hare Krishna explosion, as it is called by sociologists. And there were hundreds and thousands of devotees all over the world, all over Africa, South America, in Europe, Australia. And so you can see in the video, Prabhupada is surrounded by his generals, all with dandas and so many sannyasis. And it's like a heavy, heavy mood, right? And Prabhupada in that class, there's a couple of things that are very impressive of what he says. First of all, he says, distribute books, distribute books, distribute books. If you Google or YouTube search that video will come up. Distribute books, distribute books, distribute books. And he speaks about the importance of these books and the importance of distributing these books. And another thing that he says that caught my attention from the very first time I heard it is that even if you read one word of these books, your life can be perfected. Right? One word, I thought, okay, that sounds more like a selling line, like just one word. And I kept, hearing that and one word, and then studying the Gita like that, Prabhupada's books. And then I was curious, how is it one word? How can one word, right? Then decades after, I came across a book that I have, and it's around. It's called Gita Mahatmya. In the Gita Mahatmya, the story of Lord Shiva talking to his wife Parvati is there. And one time, Parvati asked Lord Shiva, says, why is it that you are so mesmerized by this Gita recitation of the devotees? What is it that, you're so, it's Gita is like a fascination, And then Lord Shiva answered. He said, oh, my dear Devi, once upon a time, like the good stories start, right? Once upon a time, Mother Lakshmi asked the same question to Lord Krishna, to Lord Vishnu. She asked, why is it that when your devotees recite the Gita, you become so driven to them? It's like, oh, my devotees are chanting my glories, like he says in chapter 10, like that. So she asked the same question. Why is it that you're so, drawn to them when they describe that particular book? So Lord Vishnu told Mother Lakshmi, and Lord Shiva repeated to Mother Parvati, his wife. He says, because I'm not different than the Bhagavad-gita. Bhagavad-gita is my incarnation, book incarnation. I am the Bhagavad-gita. So when my devotees read the Bhagavad-gita, they are in direct contact with me. And Srila Prabhupada says, he explains, that when we come to a temple, for example, you see the form of Krishna, yeah? Krishna is here, Krishna Balaram, Gaurnitai, Radha Govardhandari, like that. And you are seeing, I remember our Bhakta leader used to question us about in class. He would say, without looking, tell me the colors of Krishna's dress. Right? And we hardly could answer rightly, because you just go and like, oh, Krishna. And you really don't play, what's the color of the turbans, or, here is so beautiful, yeah? And then like that, and then he will explain, says, that means that you're very unconscious of Krishna. It's not your Krishna consciousness. This is not the movement of Krishna unconsciousness. Sometimes we are very unconscious. I remember him saying. So Prabhupada explains that sometimes when we come and see Krishna, you see his form, and you see, for example, Balaram, some days he has like a baseball bat, right, like a club, right? You see that? A wooden, and then he has a silver one. Sometimes it's the plow, like that. And Krishna uses the flute. And if you notice, Giriraj, every day they change the flute. Some days, one day is golden, and the next day is silver, right? And like that, different details change like that. So you may see those details if you are very, very conscious of that, especially the pujaris. Have you seen the ladies, when they dress the deities, they come and they are talking, oh, they put like this and like that, and then they take photos and they post it like that. They're very, very conscious of that service. So Prabhupada explains that. You may see all those things, but there's one thing that you don't see, he said. You don't see his mind, he said. You don't know what Krishna is thinking, don't you? He says, yeah. So Prabhupada says, if you want to know what Krishna is thinking, open Bhagavad-gita. Because in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Mamamatir. Mamamatir means, this is my opinion. This is what I think. That's what he says. This is my opinion. Several times he says that. So when we open the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna explains, this is what I'm thinking. Right? So, going back to the sections of the Gita, the first section, the first thing that Krishna explains to Arjuna is, who are we? What is our identity? Atma Tattva. That's the first thing. Sankhya Yoga. Let's understand what is what. Because you are thinking that you are the body, and they are their bodies, but neither you nor all these kings, none of them have ever been born. Not do I either. So we are eternal. That's the first thing that he explains. Right? So that's the first part. That's what I said. Second chapter is a summary of what is coming. And at the end, Krishna does another summary in chapter 18. That's why they are so long. Because apart from those two chapters, and maybe chapter 11 that has, you remember how many verses? It's the third largest. 55 verses. Okay? So we got 78, first place, 72, second place, and 55. Apart from those 2 or 3 verses, chapters, every chapter of the Bhagavad-gita takes less than 10 minutes to be read. 10 minutes. We have tested it. With my wife, I read them all. She takes time. And then we write down how much, We read with the group, we have read a few chapters. And sometimes it's 4 minutes, I think, that we read. I've forgotten which chapter. The shortest chapters of the Bhagavad-gita are 12 and 15. They only have 20 verses. Less than 4 minutes. Something like that. So, if you think, how long do we spend on our phones? Surely more than 4 minutes, or even more than 10 minutes. Some of us, yeah, sure. So every day, Prabhupada explained, there were 2 devotees early in the movement, and then they asked him, Srila Prabhupada, we are so attracted to your books, to your teachings. We want to really master this knowledge and etc. And then we be able to help you and present it to others, like that. And then Prabhupada said, read 1 chapter every day. Read 1 chapter every day. So at least if we can read that, just the translation at least, And one trick also that we use is that when you read 1 chapter, takes you less than 10 minutes, you choose 1 verse, the verse that attracts you the most or intrigues you the most, and read that verse word by word, try to understand it a little, and then read the purport. Right? If you do that on a regular basis, sure enough, very soon you will have a good grasp of the Bhagavad-gita. Okay, so we were saying the one word, right? The one word, Prabhupada said it, but then it comes from the Gita Mahatmya. Lord Shiva told Mother Parvati, Lord Vishnu told Mother Lakshmi, that one word. Prabhupada explains in the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that if you see the form of Krishna, right, and if you, let's say, die in your last moment, you just die thinking of one part of Krishna. Could be his face, his smiling face, or his flute playing, lotus hands, or Prabhupada explains the toe of his lotus feet, right? If you have that in your conscience when you passed on, you will achieve the same result, because his body is absolute. So thinking of his lotus feet, or thinking his lotus mouth or eyes or whatever part of him, it's the same, because he's absolute. Like that. So in the same way, if we read Bhagavad-gita, and if we are able to at least remember one word, then we can achieve perfection. That's why Prabhupada said what he said. And I thought in my silly mind, no, he's just, making it up, exaggerating. Right? He's just trying to push for the books. One word, how can it be one word? He says one verse, then he reduces it one line, and then he reduces it one word, like that. But my understanding, and I have consulted with some senior people, Burijan Prabhu and others, and he explained, he says, we have to see which word, because if you read the Bhagavad-gita, I can guarantee you that you will have a favorite chapter. And out of all the all the chapters that you read in the book, you will have favorite verses. Oh, I like that one. Like that. So it's good that we select, we make it personal. So anyway, the way that we are presenting this Gita, in essence, Gita for everyone we call it, is selecting one verse. And from that verse, we select one word. For example, chapter 1, what is the word in Sanskrit? Shoka. Shoka means lamentation. So now you know one word. And if we go on like that, at the end we know 11 words, or 18 words, or 21 words, whatever number you can. And then you have some good grasp. Okay, so in chapter 2, we have text number 13. 13 is one of the most quoted verses of the Bhagavad-gita. You remember the Sanskrit? Anyone remembers the Sanskrit? You have the verse in front of you. You have a go? $2.13. Yep. All right. So you want to read the Sanskrit? The translation, sir? Yeah, please. Yeah. No, just the whole translation. Okay. So when we see someone dying or dead, we should not be confused. We should understand that the person is not dead. It's just gone. Just has moved on, they say. Right? That's there. How is it possible that someone who's so active, so charismatic, so loving, or whichever characteristic that person had, all of a sudden disappears? And doesn't exist anymore, like some people may think. So this is the first teaching of the Bhagavad-gita. And the maxim is, we're not the body, we're a spirit soul. We're not the body, we're a spirit soul. That's the first lesson that Krishna gives us. And we need to understand that, because one may think, oh, what does that have to do with me? I'm doing my thing, I'm enjoying here. For how long? That's the question. For how long? Because there will be a time when we will be faced with these bodily changes, seriously old, and we cannot walk, or we cannot do many basic things that normally do without even thinking. Sometimes we cannot even breathe, right? We cannot digest our food and so many things. The body starts deteriorating, decaying to the extent that it's dysfunctional. And we struggle even to breathe, right? So at that point, we need to have it clear that we are not the body. And these are good news, yeah? So like that, Krishna explains in chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, Atma Tattva, your identity. As I said, from text number 11 to 30, all those verses are in relationship to the soul. And to conclude the second last verse of that section, Krishna says, some look at the soul as amazing. Text 29. Some look at the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. And some hear of him as amazing. Right? It's amazing. Imagine, it's amazing. Ascharyavat, I think it's the Sanskrit, no? Ascharyavat. It's amazing. And then Krishna gives another insight into that. While others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Huh? Right? You're suffering, someone's suffering, and I always say this every time I used to go to the work in the hospital in Perth, and I'll enter and everyone's there. Everyone is very tense and very anxious because of their body or because of somebody else. Yeah? Whether because they are sick or some relative or someone is sick. Everyone is very, very conscious of their body. And I used to think, if these people will only know this, they are not the body. Maybe they have a sense, I'm sure. But it's like, you are not the body. That's the ABC of a spiritual life. So, the next section of the Gita, in text 31 onwards, in chapter 2, there is a description. Krishna changes gears there. And he started telling Arjuna that he needs to work. He needs to get back to his job. Remember those instances when you were little and you didn't want to go to school, right? And you faked being sick, remember? Expert, I got a fever, and I rubbed my neck, and I got a rash or something. I just wanted to stay home, watch telly or play with my dog or whatever nonsense. And so Krishna is encouraging Arjuna, you do what you have to do. Because this is the problem. And this problem will be analyzed in detail in the beginning chapters of the Gita. Okay, we are spirit souls, right? So if I'm a spirit soul, why do I have to do anything with my body? I'm not the body, right? So why don't I just do nothing? Correct? Out of logic, if I'm not the body, why do I have to bother with this body? Right? What is your answer? Yep. Yeah. Looked after. Yep. Perfect. Correct. So that's a great example. Vehicle. Right? Just like you have a car. That's example. Prabhupada often use that example. You have a car. You are not the car, don't you? You are not Toyota. You are not Mazda. You are not whatever brand. Huh? But you have to take care of your car. Why? Because the car takes you from point A to point B. Drives you to a particular destination. You use the car to move yourself and to get to places. So that, taken from what you said, or the words that you used in analogy, it's a vehicle. So the question then comes, where am I going? What is my duty? What is my destination? What do I have to do with this body? What is this body for? It's just to eat, sleep, procreate, and defend, just like any other animal? Is that what it is? So that is the issue that sometimes is presented. I'm not the body. I shouldn't do anything. I just live free, whatever. I just I'm cool bananas, whatever. Yeah. No, you have to do what you have to do. I remember when Centerlink brought some program ages ago. Before it used to be the doll. Still they call it the doll, but I don't know if it's called officially like that. I think back to work. I don't know how they call it. I used to say that, they will love this section of the Bhagavad-gita. Centerlink will love this. Go back to work, do something for you, Don't be a lazy bum. Bludger, as they call it, right? So, chapter 2 describes, in summary, the importance of our work. Do what you are meant to do. And sometimes we may argue against that. We may say, no, but I know. I've heard it, I don't know all, but I have heard a lot. No, but society. I used to think like that, actually, right? I remember when I was looking for spirituality, one of the things, I remember when John Lennon was killed, and some of us got together. He says, this is conspiracy. This is, the Illuminati, this and that. And we made a pact, and we're going to give up university and everything. And we went and threw our university books, put them on fire or something like that. I remember all these things. Because we thought we're just going to rebel and we're going to find freedom and we'll do whatever we want. I mean, that's all cheating. We all just wanted to sense gratification, and we don't want our parents or society to limit us. Sense gratification, that's what we wanted, yeah? But Krishna here explains a very important point in life, that we need to do what we are meant to do. And that sounds like an imposition, yeah? You're meant to do what you're meant to do. That doesn't sound cool, yeah? That doesn't sound like too inviting. But the point is this, and Krishna mentions this. Why? Because at the end of the day, you're going to end up doing something which is natural for you, right? And you will see in time how gradually life takes you to people, to circumstances, to places and things that sort of align with who you are. You will be drawn, or you gravitate towards certain type of food, certain type of music, certain type of places, and you will end up doing, maybe when you're older, thinking, oh, I remember I used to think I was this or that. I remember I used to want to be a big wave surfer. That was my dream. I used to draw that, in my notebooks, beach by the house with my dog and my surfers and my friends, and of course the girls and all that, and and other things. That was my dream, and I thought, when I'll reach that, I'll be happy. And I remember one of the first times the devotees preached to me. It was a good friend, so he had the trust to say some things. And he said, just imagine you being, I don't know what he said, 80 plus, 85, and trying to get your surfboard and, almost drowning and thinking, if I get this wave, I'll be happy. You're most probably going to die, For how many years can you try that? At some point, you won't be able to enjoy that. And he just slapped me left and right, philosophically. And I was like, it was a very argumentative, but I just couldn't argue. So you are thinking that by doing this, you will be happy, okay? Yeah, okay, I give you that. So what about when you will not be able to do that? Then you won't be able to be happy anymore. Isn't that a foolish proposition? He defeated me right there. And I thought, oh, I know this, and I read so many things. And he defeated me. He was a bhakta. He wasn't initiated at that time. He defeated me. You're just like a fool. Putting all your energy and thinking, oh, if I live at this beautiful beach house and, enjoy. For how long? For how long? Just fast forward the video. You won't have the chance to be happy then. And then all my hopes, all my, dreams were burst in a second, And then I thought, so what? So what am I going to do now, And then he told me, then instead of looking outside, you have to look inside. That's what the Bhagavad-gita is telling us. You're not the body. It's not because Krishna is some kind of, Rinanda Maharaj says, he's some kind of universal maniac, that it's encouraging us to destroy our body and have destructive behaviors and all that sort of thing. But because he's encouraging you that the soul is the real thing. And if we are able to manifest the qualities of the soul, which are eternity, what else? Bliss and knowledge, wisdom, consciousness. If we're able to manifest that, then we will be fully happy, eternally. Doesn't matter if we're sick, old, ugly, poor, dying. Doesn't matter. Isn't that a better proposal? And I was just like, my jaw just dropped, because I thought I never heard something like this. I never heard someone, and he was my friend. He joined just a few months in the ashram. He was like a wisdom of sort, wise person. He's just like a sage. Coming from the Himalayas or something. He was just bashing me philosophically. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is like, in my mind, my ego was like, oh damn it, he's so right, And And then he said, anyway, look, get these beads and just chant. And on top of everything, I was thinking, okay, he's giving me a point of view that's making sense. Yeah, I have to admit, it's stronger than any argument that I had. But on top, he gave me to chant some beads of something that I didn't even understand. I didn't know what was Hare or Krishna. I never heard the word Krishna before in my life. Can you believe that? Never. No? Never. Now you guys are much more advanced. It's all on YouTube, online, and you just Google it and it's there. In those days, never heard the word Krishna. And there I supposed to be chanting a name of something that I didn't even know what it was. He says, if you... one thing that he did, he said, if you have any intelligence, read this book. And he gave me the abridged version of the Bhagavad-gita. If you have any intelligence, read this book. So Krishna is doing that in the first chapter where he explains things or begins explaining things, which is chapter 2. The Bhagavad-gita actually begins in chapter 2. Chapter 1 is just like a bridge that is bringing us from the narration of the Mahabharata, because the Bhagavad-gita is one chapter of the Mahabharata. So before Bhagavad-gita and after Bhagavad-gita, right? Before the Bhagavad-gita is the prelude to the war. And after Bhagavad-gita, guess what? The war happens, right? So 18 days of fighting and all that. So at this point, in this particular section of the second chapter, Krishna emphasizes the importance of work. But not just work and become a workaholic and that's it. But work with the purpose of righteousness for the right cause. And he will elaborate on that point in the next chapter. The next chapter, chapter 3, it's called Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga means how we connect our work, our duty, our actions to the spiritual source. That's the simple translation. Karma Yoga. Yoga means connection, yeah? But yoga in this context is connection with the Supreme. Not only with the Supreme, but also with our own self-interest. And not selfish interest, selfless interest. Because if we, like nowadays, my line of work, we always encourage self-care, right? And what does self-care mean? Have a massage, have some time off, plan your holidays, do what you always wanted to do, learn to play the guitar, go to that around the world to a trip or whatever. And I always say to my clients, if you could, where would you go? What do you think is the most common answer that I get? You can guess. What do you think? People wants to go the most. Very popular, very common. No? Any place? That's for Australians. Yeah. Italy, Greece, Japan, Hawaii, Tahiti, Fiji. The list goes long. I said, let me guess. This or that. And then they go, this one. Oh, I'm a fortune teller. I have a crystal ball here. People wants to enjoy, basically. Wants to have a nice time, yeah? But the question always, I learned this in Mayapur the first time I went there. As a young boy. There was a famous Prabhupada disciple, Gurukul teacher, Admatatu Prabhu, very philosophical, from South India. And we always, whenever you would say something, he always will challenge you philosophically. And he says, ask yourself, whenever you're thinking of something or planning of something, I think this comes from some Vedic instructions. It says, anytime you're planning something or thinking of something, ask yourself, why? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to achieve that? Just ask yourself, why? Secondly, how? How are you going to achieve that? Very practical, no? Very practical. And the third question he taught us that we have to ask is, what for? Why? What am I going to get? And there are a few other things that he explained, And then you ask, okay, if you get that, let's say I want to go to these beautiful islands, what do you call the bucket list, right? So there's the concept of bucket list. Bucket list means you want to achieve these things before you kick the bucket. Right? That means before you die. Right? Okay, let's say you achieve all that. For how long would you be able to enjoy that? Just ask yourself. That, and I'm not prescribing here. How long would you be able to enjoy that holiday? I mean, many people when they retire, right? What do? They go and buy some, retirement, house or something like that, yeah. And I enjoy in the south of Italy and what is that? Yeah. And I have my dream this or my dream that. For how long? For how long? I mean, I'm not aloof from that. I'm just repeating what Prabhupada explains. So here, the importance of karma yoga is presented, and Krishna says a few things. We will read a few verses. We still have some time. He says, 231. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, that means warrior, military man, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting. Because he's a warrior, soldier. On religious principles, that's righteousness, or dharma. And so there is no need for hesitation. O Partha, happy are the kshatriyas, or warriors, to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur in sin for neglecting your duties, and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. And that goes the same for a mother or a father or a son or a husband or wife or daughter, whatever it is. You do what you are meant to do. Do the right thing. People will always speak of your infamy. And for a respectable person, such as you, dishonored is worse than death. Dishonored is worse than death. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. So he's poking him, as you can see, he's poking Arjuna. Do this. Like my friend told me, if you have any intelligence, read this book. You have any dignity towards yourself, read this book. Chant this mantra. Do something for your life. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? So in this way, Krishna describes different things and why he needs to fight. And at the end of his little speech there, he says, fight for the sake of fighting. Text 38. Sukhe dukhe same kritva. Without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you should never incur in sin. So, in these mini sections that he presents in chapter 2 will be elaborated upon in later chapters. Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Right? He also talks about the importance of knowledge. Knowledge means basically three things. Every time you think about knowledge, what do you think of? What are the images that come to your mind? Generic knowledge. Books. What else? Your brain. Okay. Your brain. Books. Your cognitive capacity. Yeah, what else? Teacher. Yeah? So you have books, you have teachers, Shastra it's called, or the Vedas. The Gita is the essence of the Vedas. Then you have gurus, teachers. What else comes to mind when you say knowledge? Traditionally. Sadhu. Which means other students. Other students. They may be senior students or students. What do you have? That concept of tutors, right? In university you have the lecturer and you have the tutors. And generally the tutors are senior students. They are in third year, fourth year, fifth, whatever. They are about to graduate, so they teach you. So why? Because they have gone through that, like that. So that's another area that Krishna will describe, and he will present that in chapter 4, which is called Transcendental Knowledge. So each part, as you can see, when you read the Gita, you may think, wow, this is so much here. You got a headache, Wow, where am I going? This and that. But when you study with devotees, by the agency of different devotees, Prabhupada comments on each chapter. Yeah, Prabhupada comments on each of the sections as a set of verses or set of chapters, and then he explains, in this section, this is described. In this chapter, this is described. So like an overview. And devotees, like I've learned from Burijan Prabhu in his book, Surrendered Unto Me, and then he explains. And then he connects different things like that. And the knowledge that it's given here in the beginning is about what? The soul, right? And then knowledge about work. And then knowledge about knowledge. How is knowledge attained? Chapter 4. And then, very interestingly, chapter 5, what it says there? Can read? The result. What is the result of working, knowing who you are, associating with the books, associating with the gurus, associating with the sadhus? What's the result? Heavenly planets. For some time, even before Krishna, that's too high yet. What is the result? Peace. That's crucial. You see, the Gita is not random, right? Gita is presented by Krishna himself, the Supreme Person. That's why he's called Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu means the great lecturer, the great professor, Prabhupada sometimes said. So he's putting all the pieces of the puzzle. You cannot be happy, we cannot be happy unless we are peaceful. It's crucial. Sometimes we don't, understand the dynamics of our psychological making. And then a lot of people, you know what's the main mental illness nowadays? The most common? Doesn't have to be extreme, but what do you think is the main mental illness? Depression and anxiety. Depression and anxiety. Right? In other words, if you don't have happiness, right, you become depressed. But you cannot have happiness, Krishna explains in chapter 2, unless you have peace. Right? And if you don't have peace, what's the contrary to peace? Anxiety. Yeah? Distress. Like that. So depression and anxiety. That's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to say, Srila Prabhupada's guru, nothing is missing in this material world. The only thing is Krishna consciousness. How can someone, I always say this, how can someone have a client who has 3 houses paid for, 3 mortgages paid, 3, and he calls me. I say, why? I always joke with him, why do you call me? You know, I should be getting advice from you. You got 3 houses, I have none. He said, no, but my life is so miserable, this and that, and my wife and the kids and this and my that. So many things, He ends up laughing, because I don't know. We have a good rapport from Perth. But the problem is that we're thinking this matter, it's going to make me happy. Burijan Prabhu always says, until we hold a ounce of hope that this material world will make me happy, we're going to be stuck here. Again and again and again. I'm dying, yeah, Krishna, Haribol, everything, but I wish I could have gone to Hawaii. Again, guess where you're born? Guess where you're born? Why am I here? Little kid going to, because that desire, it's like a seed, and it takes you somewhere else. And there you are, born in this family, with this environment, so you can enjoy that desire. And that desire is so strong that it perseveres, just like a cockroach. They say that even an atomic bomb comes, they will survive. I don't know, I read some things like that. So desires are very, very strong. So Krishna is taking us through this. First understand who you are, then understand what you have to do, then understand what you have to and how you have to learn, then get your result, peace. And then you put the all-wheel drive, like in your car, put the all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive gear, and then the peak of the mountain starts being seen closer and closer, and then we get serious, and that's chapter 6. Through the mind, we can reach Krishna. That will be explained in the middle section, that it's all about Krishna. Okay, so we stop here. Any questions, any point, comments about this? Yes. Yep. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So if we focus our attention, I mean, we may read all the we do read all the verses and all the purpose and all that, but if we focus our attention in those ones, it's like, I don't know if you have done hiking. I haven't done hiking, a little bit. But you know, even when you do those wall hiking, how do you call those? Rock climbing, yes. And then you have those little bits there, maybe plastic nowadays, right? Right? And you get this and you get that, and then you put your foot here and the other foot there, and then you're climbing, and then all of a sudden you are like, what, 3 meters up there, right? How did I get here? You know, it's like, oh man, I remember the first time, put a harness and all that. You know, thinking, gee, that looks, difficult. But sure, if you just follow, then you get up there, right? Is that correct? And I mean, when we did the course, there were devotees that I haven't read much, or I'm not philosophical, blah, blah, blah. But now everyone is, it's up there. We have reached the peak of the mountain, and now we completed the Bhakti Shastri section of Bhagavad-gita section of the Bhakti Shastri. And so it's doable. It's doable. There are four things to end. There are four things that every person who works in advertisement knows. The first thing is that when you sell something, you need to sell it simple. It has to be simple to understand. It has to be easy to apply. It has to be, what else? Beneficial, right? And it has to be fun, right? And if you think about it, that's what a mobile phone is. Very simple. Yeah. What do you have to do? Just press on. Very easy to apply. You just have to swipe this way, that way, whatever. Correct? It's beneficial. You can talk to anybody you want. You can do anything. And it's fun. Why do you think the colors and the sounds and all that? Right? You can put your photo or your dog or Krishna or whoever you want. It's fun. So just in the same way that we use our mobile phone, we need to be experts to present these books to others. And you say, oh, look, just open here. The mind, you have problems with the mind? Chapter 6. Oh, someone is dying. Where you go? Chapter 8. Oh, some problem about love. Chapter 9. Chapter 18. Etc. So it's very easy for us to use it by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his devotees. So that's the idea. So we're just starting to climb, and we are getting ready for the mountain of the Bhagavad-gita. And once we are there, we can see everything. Krishna says, you can see things as they are. And then once you are reach the peak, then you come down. Yeah. Then you come down to the material world. And then you do your duty armed with the sword of knowledge. And in your heart, you have the understanding. And at least a tinge of bhakti. Right? And then you just... What happens after the Bhagavad-gita ends? Yeah, the big term, but not before. What happens after the Bhagavad-gita ends in the Mahabharata? Bhagavad-gita is a chapter of the Mahabharata. Bhagavad-gita ends, and what happens after? The war starts. So we go out, and then we have to fight. That's what it is. You have to struggle and pay taxes and get sick and this and that and the other. But you are armed with the sword of knowledge, and you are empowered with the spirit of bhakti, Prabhupada explains. And so nothing can defeat you. You die or no problem. We will succeed. That's, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtana. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad-gita ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. That's it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.